This segment of the training CD outlines a core injection water wash procedure for the CFM 56 engine. Please keep in mind that because core injection is a new idea, there will not be a procedure outlined in your aircraft maintenance manual. You should work closely with your core injection vendor for exact procedures on how best to reduce performance deterioration and increase time on wing using this equipment. CFM Product Support Engineering is also available to help determine a procedure that is best for your fleet. Prior to a wash, it is important to note that the engines must be allowed to cool down for 1 hour before a wash can commence. During this time, we suggest that you prepare the rig for a washing. To do this, simply recharge the nitrogen cylinders, fill the pressure vessels with water, and check the wash rig. The nitrogen cylinders should be charged to your procedure's exact recommendations to ensure that between 5 and 6 gallons of water per minute are being injected at any given time. Be sure that the high-pressure regulator valve is closed during the recharge. Next, fill the water tanks with hot water. If your rig does not include a screen, use a funnel with an integral strainer to ensure that no foreign objects get into the water tanks. When full, tightly close the filler caps. Move the rig into position 3 meters in front of the engine and 3 meters on either side of the engine center line. Lock the wheels by putting the tow bar in the vertical and locked position. Also during this cool-down time, you should open the fan cowl doors as outlined in the Aircraft Maintenance Manual water wash procedure. Once open, be sure to deactivate the thrust reverser. You may wish to place an easy-to-find warning notice telling you to reactivate the thrust reverser at the end of the water wash. Next, top off the oil tank to the window mark, as this is necessary to dry motor the engine. Also add 1 liter of corrosion preventive oil. If no corrosion preventive oil is available, the engine must be operated within 24 hours of the wash. Once serviced, disconnect the PS3 and P25 lines from the electronic control unit. Please note that the P25 line is only applicable for engines equipped with the PMUX option. Immediately after disconnection, tightly plug the open tubes and the open ECU ports. Because these lines lead to sensors which are used to control the engine speed, it is very important to keep these lines free of water during the wash. Before moving on, go to the flight deck and make sure that the engine anti-ice system is not operating. Also, make sure that the engine bleed system is not operating. Next, you must install the probes onto the engine. Before doing this, make sure that the fan is not rotating, as injury to your body and equipment can occur. Once the fan has been stopped, connect the hand pump and use it to open the left and right thrust reverser doors. Once the doors are open, remove the pump. Install the probes at the 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock positions of the engine, forward-looking aft, on the outside casing of the splitter in the fan duct. Make sure that the front of the probe is placed into the booster inlet. Once hooked in, secure each of the probes to the engine by swinging the clamping bracket vertically into the thrust reverser. Tighten the clamping bracket knob to attach the probe on the engine. Then tighten the probe retaining knob to secure the probe on the engine. Before attempting to wash your engine, pay strict attention to the following guidelines. Do not clean an engine exposed to dry chemical fire extinguishing agents. Damage to equipment will occur. Because the fuel pump and the HMU are fuel lubricated, do not motor, start, or operate the engine unless there is a positive fuel inlet pressure. Damage to components can occur. Do not motor the engine more than the starter duty cycle. Failure to comply will result in engine failure. Make sure that the N1 rotor turns freely throughout cleaning to prevent oil system contamination. Do not apply water at more than 6 U.S. gallons or 23 liters per minute. Engine damage can occur. Make sure that the wash water contains no more than 100 parts per million total solids, 25 parts per million sodium and potassium, and has a pH value between 6 and 8. When these conditions have been met, connect the twin delivery hose to the probes. The hoses are equipped with a quick disconnect feature and are installed by fitting the male part of each coupling to the end of each probe. Recheck the probe connection to the engine to make sure that the probes were not loosened during the hose connection. Return to the rig and select the CFM56 engine using the engine selection valve. Next, turn on the nitrogen cylinders and open the nitrogen inlet valve. Finally, open the high-pressure regulator valve and pressurize the system. When the system has been pressurized to your engine model's specifications, connect the rig to the twin delivery hose. You may now move to a safe distance from the cowling and begin to dry motor the engine. The engine should be dry motored for 2 minutes. After the first 10 seconds, inject the water by opening the fluid outlet valve. Do this for the remaining 1 minute and 50 seconds. CFM now recommends that during the water wash procedure, you keep the starter on while water is being injected. Then shut down the engine and shut down the water flow. At this point, allow the engine to soak for 5 minutes. After the soak, dry motor the engine for another 2 minutes. Again, dry motor the engine for 10 seconds and inject the water for the remaining 1 minute and 50 seconds. When the 2 minutes is up, shut down the engine and turn off the water flow. Allow the engine to soak for 5 minutes. One last time, dry motor the engine. This time you should only dry motor for 1 minute. 10 seconds into the dry motor, open the fluid outlet valve and spray water for 50 seconds. After this time, shut down the engine and the water flow. Allow the engine to soak for 5 minutes. Although the PS3 and P25 lines have been plugged, it is inevitable that some water will still make it inside the lines. To clean any excess water, remove the plugs from the ECU and the lines. Blow compressed nitrogen from the rig's nitrogen source into the lines to clear them of water. This should be done at the pressure indicated in your aircraft maintenance manual. Do not blow compressed air or nitrogen into the ECU because severe damage can occur. Once these lines are free of water, reconnect and tighten them to the ECU using the appropriate torque. Also be sure to secure them with the appropriate lock wire. Torque settings and lock wire specifications can be found in your aircraft maintenance manual. You should now remove the probes from the booster. However, before doing this, make sure that the fan has come to a complete stop. Loosen the clamps and unhook the probes from around the booster. Next, close the thrust reversers on both the engines. Reactivate the thrust reverser and then close the fan cowl doors. For specific instructions on post-wash maintenance for your core injection rig, see your individual manufacturer. No more than 1 hour from the completion of the wash procedure, start the engine to purge the lube and sump system of any water ingestion. Make sure that the air conditioning systems, pack 1 and 2, are off prior to beginning this procedure. To purge the system, let the engine run at idle for 5 minutes. After that 5 minutes has expired, operate the engine bleed systems by pressing the engine bleed push-button switch. Also press the anti-ice engine push-button switch to operate the anti-ice system. Lastly, activate the wing anti-ice system by pressing the push-button switch. Allow the engine to run at idle for 10 minutes. After that first 10 minutes, turn off both the wing anti-ice system and the engine anti-ice system. Also, press the pack 1 and 2 push-button switches to operate the air conditioning packs. Allow the engine to run at idle for another 10 minutes. In some cases, odors may appear in the cabin during this engine run. If those odors are still present at the end of the 25 minutes, continue to run the engine at idle until they are gone. At the completion of this 25 or more minute run, shut down the engine and remove any warning notices. We at CFM International hope that you have gained some valuable knowledge of water washing practices and will consider implementing the procedure into your normal fleet operations. CFM International is ready to work together with you to develop a procedure that is applicable for your specific operation. CFM 56 operators have used both fan and booster units successfully. CFM International does not make a recommendation between the two. CFM International recommends that you work closely with the manufacturer of your tool to identify any specific procedures that may apply. For additional information and recommendations, please contact CFM Product Support Engineering.